Hey guys, before we jump into this video, this is a disclaimer that throughout the video I got super confused. I don't know why, I think it's Mercury retrograde around the dates that Jupiter and Saturn become exact in August in particular. So I originally said it was August 19th that Jupiter square Saturn would be exact, and then I changed it to August 31st. It is the 19th. So keep that in mind. It's at the time of the Aquarius full moon that it is first coming exact. The second pass will be December 24th, 2024, and then the last one will be June 15th of 2025. So if it's confusing, come back to this intro. Sorry about that, and then I hope that you enjoy. Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Jupiter and Saturn square that is going to be exact at the time of this Aquarius full moon on August 19th. The reason I want to focus on this aspect instead of the entire full moon is because this is a part of a larger cycle with these two slower planets, Jupiter and Saturn, that actually began when the last time they were conjunct, which was December 21st of 2020. So I want you guys to kind of look back around that time and ask yourself, what were you working on? What kind of new venture were you starting? Or what beliefs were you starting to kind of grapple with? What life adjustments were happening at that time? Generally, when Jupiter and Saturn come together, it starts a new cycle of the foundation of our life, of the belief systems of our life, and how we then construct our life and our actions according to those beliefs and philosophies. Jupiter and Saturn are societal building blocks. Jupiter is kind of the moral compass, the philosophy, the meaning, the purpose, the direction. And Saturn is the taskmaster who then fills in the gaps and makes those dreams or those visions a reality by acknowledging the earthly limits and constraints that we have to deal with, by acknowledging what we have to say no to or what we have to commit to or be disciplined about, by also kind of going through the natural hardships and the ebbs and flows of a journey of creating something substantial and foundational, which is what these planets do together. So if you can quite literally imagine that these two planets, as they come together, are the actual cement building blocks of your life, you can see that their cycles and the way that they interact with one another are going to be really profound. And they are going to mark cornerstones of major developments in our personality and our life, as well as periods of adjustment, which is what this square is going to be about. So that kind of first marker for a new pillar being created in our life began in that December 2020 period. So again, think back to maybe something new that was emerging for you then. It doesn't even have to be good or bad. It can kind of be anything really, but it marked some kind of shift in our life in some way. For me, for example, that was when I was really in the thick of getting ready to launch my first membership and teaching astrology for the first time. And it's kind of crazy because I'm in the process right now of getting ready to launch a course, which hopefully will be soon, knock on wood, teaching astrology again through a different lens. So it's really interesting to see how, 4 years later, it's returning to kind of the same topic. It doesn't have to be so aligned in the sense that you're doing the exact same thing, but there's a thread that runs through the circumstances of what was going on then and now, and you will confront similar beliefs or similar issues emotionally in your life at this time that will again mirror that 2020 period. So super curious if you want to comment down below what was going on for you guys at that time. I would really love to hear and to see if there are things again that match during this period of time. So as I mentioned, Jupiter is a planet that's very highly associated with our beliefs, our ideals, our visions, the kind of faith and hope that we have in the perfect life that we can create. And then Saturn is that more realistic planet that kind of doles out certain lessons that might be challenging for us. It can test us through maybe internal means where we start to doubt ourselves, life circumstances where things can get in the way, or through other people in our life that can take us down a peg. And so there's this energy here with Saturn, particularly at this square, where we are confronted with the beliefs that we started, or the path that we started to establish in that December 2020. We're now being confronted with it again and having certain ideals or beliefs challenged. And basically it's an iteration upon those initial circumstances that is going to help us make necessary changes or adaptations in order for us to find the thing that really sticks with us, the belief or the direction that really fits with us. So maybe, for example, in that initial membership, I was teaching the foundations of astrology, but then over the course of these the 4 years after that, really what I came to understand, and actually through a friend, Megan, who really helped me with this, was to kind of share more of my unique perspective on astrology and take it in a little bit of a different direction. So what I've been working on since then is a greater focus on healing and developmental astrology, psychological astrology, medical astrology, and a mixture of all those things, which is so different from just kind of the foundations. The foundations are necessary and they get you started, but there's just a whole different take that I have on it, a different philosophy that feels more unique to me, that aligns more with my personal values and my goals and the impact that I want to have. And that, I think, is a great example of this square coming to life, where you were doing things one way and you felt like that was the right way, maybe teaching astrology for me, but then it kind of goes through its own metamorphosis and reaches this critical point at this time on August 19th of then asking yourself, okay, I was doing it like this all along. Is that still working? Do I need to adapt? Do I need to question my beliefs and perspectives that were established at that time? And this can go much deeper. If I'm having fears or insecurities around launching something, which I pretty much always do because I'm human, then it could also go into that. How are my beliefs around myself and my capabilities and my worthiness and all those things? So really, it's like we're kind of establishing some initial, step on a path. And then we are reaching maybe our first milestone where we are having to maybe cross a river or overcome a hurdle or walk over a steep hill. There's a sense of our first kind of test along this journey that that may be easy or may be difficult. It really kind of depends on what those initial circumstances were. So in general, I feel like this is a time of really seeing what works and what doesn't. What do you want to persevere with and what do you want to kind of let go of? Because sometimes when Jupiter and Saturn come together, especially that last time in December 2020, we also had Pluto there. Quite negative energies can come up. Obviously, we were going through COVID at that time, and so there's this vein or this energy around that period that we may have actually had quite a few fears established during that period of time. So I would encourage you to look at the shadowy elements of that period of time as well, not just these major growth milestones or things that were really obvious and happening in your life, but maybe the things that were kind of the undercurrents that you were scared would happen or that you weren't sure of or anything like that. So there's a sense here of maybe it's not even always an easy cycle that we started back then. And at this point, we might be challenged to kind of reassess what we want to believe about things. Do we want to have that fear carry over? Do we want to be impacted by maybe a negative experience that we had that time? So again, look at both the positive and the more challenging aspects of your life and see the themes that are coming back up and challenge yourself to adjust your perspective in a way that you think is going to be healthier for you. So at the time of this square, we have Saturn in Pisces. What's interesting about Piscean energy, sorry, my cat's like running around, is that Pisces is super idealistic. It has really strong ties to the ether, to potentiality. And Saturn is about realism. So Saturn moving through this sign in general for our collective as a society is kind of like trying to merge these two different aspects of the psyche. One that is a dreamer, that is imaginative, that is hopeful and idealistic, and the other that is maybe not so trusting, that maybe feels a little bit more restrictive or is really focused on the reality that is often quite dense or challenging. And so there's something that's happening here with Saturn and Pisces in general, where we're asking ourselves, can I trust this goal? Can I trust this ideal that I have? Can I believe in this thing or build this thing even when there's a lot of uncertainty, even when I can't see around the corner, even when there's maybe a lot at play that is outside of my control? So that's what a general journey of Saturn and Pisces is about. Having this also come into a square with Jupiter and Gemini really adds in the facts and the perspective of looking at things maybe a little bit more objectively. And I think that this can be really helpful because Saturn and Pisces can go in a lot of different directions, but one of them that is not helpful is maybe some despondency, or I don't know if that's the word, but being despondent, feeling hopeless, feeling despair, feeling like, this powerlessness. That is a potential with Saturn and Pisces. And I think it's helpful to have Jupiter and Gemini come in here and give some motivation, especially at the time of this full moon, because Mars is there as well, which is very energizing. It creates a lot of bravery and anticipation and excitement about the future. And so I really feel like these planets can come in here and give us a greater perspective and an objectivity that we need to feel like we can go through this process of construction, even when there is maybe confusion or uncertainty or a need to blindly trust or a need to flow with a lot of changes. These are mutable signs, Pisces and Gemini, which indicates that this period where we need to adapt is going to be easier than at other cycles of time when these planets come into an aspect. So mutable signs are good on their feet. They are good at making adjustments, and squares are all about adjustments. So again, I feel like that's why this is going to be more fruitful than other times. However, one of the things that I don't really like about this square at this time is that Venus is also opposite Saturn. So to me, there's something else kind of going on here that may indicate a challenge to self-esteem, to relationships, to what we value, and having to really make some pretty severe adjustments in these areas, or having to kind of question those particular areas of our life. Like, how do I value myself? What does my financial life look like? What is my, aesthetic? Like, how do I feel in my own body? How do I feel in terms of my confidence and my ability to connect with and relate to others, to feel supported by others? Those are things that I think are honestly going to go through a metamorphosis at this time, and themes around that are going to be more prevalent. But I also think that they can be challenged because Saturn and Venus in an opposition it's not a fun combination, especially if you have this natally. It can equate to feeling a little bit more isolated or a little bit less understood or accepted. And so we might have some interesting relational things going on at the time of this square, which I think the square is a lot about ourselves and the building blocks of our own life, but I think other people, they play a role in that. And so we're going to notice that there might be a little bit of strain within that. One of the things that I also want to warn against with Jupiter in Gemini squaring Saturn and Pisces is the way that these signs can feed off of each other. As I mentioned, I think that the highest way to use this is to have Gemini kind of adding in those important facts and data and curiosity and the objective way of looking at things to kind of ground things into reality and make things possible and contextualize things. Whereas I think Gemini can benefit from Piscean energy by helping them access things that are outside of the analytical mind, to trust themselves and what they feel is right, and have a little bit more of a sense of flow with life. And so I think that these signs can really work together positively, but anytime something can work together at all, it can go in both directions. It can be both positive or somewhat negative. So the negative way is to have kind of this confirmation bias that we search for, because Piscean energy, again, can be focused on an ideal, and then Gemini can look for information, and it can just try to look for information that confirms that belief or that ideal or that perspective. And this can be detrimental if that belief or perspective or ideal is unrealistic, it's maybe painful, or causes suffering. So basically, we want to make sure that we are truly open books or curious people, or listening to others' perspective instead of just kind of recycling the things that confirm what we already believe or already know or already want to be true, because that can create this kind of almost like this fanaticism, or this just disconnection from what's really going on, or from reality. Another thing that could happen is this kind of painting a perfect picture, but maybe not always committing to seeing it through. Mutable signs do struggle a little bit more with the idea of commitment, narrowing things down, solidifying something, and staying the course. And so that is a potential here as well. So good and challenges along with any square, with anything going on. So just something to keep in mind. I am going to go through what this is going to look like for all of the signs, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm going to pull some cards for that. But I want to talk about the full cycle of Jupiter and Saturn. So when planets come together, that initiates the cycle. So when Jupiter and Saturn came together, December 21st, 2020, that initiated the cycle where they are going on a journey to construct something in your life. The square, this is the first square after that, August 19th, 2024, is the initial test of how things are going. A time for revision, a time for adjustments and clarity to happen, a little bit of tension to test the boundaries a little bit with what you've established. Then we make it to the opposition, which is when these planets are really challenged, because you have to embody the duality of both of them. They are coming at each other from really, really different perspectives, and you have to take a little bit of both. Whereas the squares, they have a little bit more in common, and they just need a little bit of a tweak to kind of align on that right path. Whereas oppositions, they want to totally go in opposite directions, and you have to kind of drag both of them closer to you in a certain way. And then we have the final square, and then the conjunction again, which begins the new cycle. So I want to briefly say that the opposition is, this is the first square. And then the opposition is going to take place December 22nd, 2029. So this is another check-in point where we, again, have to balance two extremes. And then we'll come into the final square, which is taking place around the end of October of 2040. There's going to be, I'm just reading my notes. So it's going to be squares in 2035 and 2036. And then the final conjunction is the end of October of 2040. So large cycle. I know this is super, super far into the future, but I did want to map that out for you guys to show you how this 20-year cycle essentially is creating this kind of new life for ourselves. This, again, these new pillars, and these major check-in points are worth noting. So if you want to put it on your Google Calendar and check back in, I think that would be interesting. So this square that's happening with Jupiter and Saturn on August 19th isn't just happening now. It's also going to be taking place December 24th, so basically Christmas time, and then June 15th of 2025. So that one is going to be interesting, because at that period in 2025, Saturn and Jupiter are no longer going to be in the same signs. Saturn will then be in Aries and Jupiter will be in Cancer. So this is going to start to shift into a lot more dynamic type of energy because we are moving at that point into cardinal signs. And so we're going to have Saturn really challenging us to kind of get up and get going. And it could also bring certain challenges to men or to masculine energy, to having people kind of work on entrepreneurship and risk and adventure and self-belief and trying new things. And Saturn always brings this journey around getting closer to bettering those things in our life, and we might struggle with certain elements of that. Whereas Jupiter will be in Cancer, which is a lot more about wanting to play it safe, wanting to feel comfortable, wanting to be in the familiar or take care of your emotional self. Whereas Saturn in Aries is like, no. We're not catering to our feelings. We're getting up and we're moving and we're taking action, whether we want it to or not. And so this square, I think, is going to be a totally different energy than the one we're experiencing now, though the philosophy behind it is still the same. So there is going to, again, be some kind of shift in our beliefs that need to happen. So we have 3 chances at this square to kind of figure it all out from now until mid-June of next year, to assess how we're doing within this larger 20-year cycle that began December 2020, and to, again, kind of step up to the plate and make necessary adjustments to the way that we see things or do things along that path that began in that 2020 period. So I hope that this makes sense for you guys. Again, I'm going to dive into what this will look like for each of the signs. We're going to be talking specifically about this square, but I think it is worthwhile to look at it in the larger context of the past and the future and this whole cycle together. So thank you guys so much for listening to this video. Don't forget to comment down below what began for you around that December 2020 time. And I would love to hear if that is coming back up in any way now. Please, if you can't remember, look through your notes, look through your emails. That's what I did, your calendar, things like that, to kind of remind you of what was going on, because it's just super fascinating. So I will see you guys in all of the signs. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, so up first we have Aries, rising, and sun. So for you guys, this Jupiter-Saturn square is going to happen along your 3rd and 12th house axis. So Jupiter will be in your 3rd and making a square to Saturn in the 12th house. So I pulled some cards for this, and I want to talk about that and then integrate the astrology. I pulled 2 kinds of pairs of cards. One is very clearly talking about Jupiter. The other is very clearly talking about Saturn. I want to start there. So the first 2 cards with Saturn are 9 of Cups reversed and the Page of Wands reversed. So these cards have a lot to deal with finding out, with the 9 of Cups reversed, finding out the imperfections of something or the truth about something being revealed that makes it look less flattering, that shows that there was maybe a mistake or that there was an error or that something is amiss with a situation or a person or an idea or something of that nature. Following that, we have the Ace of Wands in reverse, which is then not taking action, pausing, kind of at a standstill, saying no to something. Or if you do take action, it kind of sputters out and doesn't gain traction because of the realization that something is amiss with this card here, or that some truth is revealed. So I love this, or I'm interested in this, because of Saturn being in the 12th. The 12th house is the most hidden area of the chart. When we see secrets revealed, usually it's something involving either Pluto, the 8th house, or the 12th house, where things that were once suppressed, things that were once hidden, are brought to light because of a transit or an aspect going on at that time. So that's kind of what I feel like is happening at this time. I think you might have certain realizations, especially with Jupiter in the 3rd house of the conscious mind. It's connecting with the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind with Saturn in the 12th. And I think that things that were suppressed or unknown, that were unclear, are likely to come to the surface and become clear, become known, become understood. And because it's involving Saturn, it's likely going to involve some degree of I guess, negativity, or the sense that the thing that's revealed is maybe not super ideal, that again, you see a mistake or you see something wrong with the situation that you didn't see before. So this could be really in regards to any life situation. So I don't want to like narrow it down too much, although I may roll some astro dice and give some examples. But there's something that you guys, I think, are coming to terms with and realizing at the time of this square. And Jupiter, the cards for Jupiter are so opposite. We have the Sun and then the Queen of Wands, which are cards of confidence and clarity and feeling like you know exactly what you want and how to move forward and like you can have it. These cards are also very strong for fertility as well. So if anyone's interested in getting pregnant, that's potentially on the horizon for you. But there's a sense of like, I can have it all. I'm doing really great. I'm excited about where I am. I'm confident about where I am. And so that's Jupiter in the third for you, right? It's this exuberance that comes from Jupiter in the area of your conscious mind. So it's almost like there's two realities here that are kind of at a reckoning together, where there's a super hopeful and confident side of the self, and then there's this other side that there might be some like emotional overwhelm around something where you realize just things that you didn't see before or things that are not working. And as a result of realizing that, there's a little bit of this energy of needing to let go, of needing to detach from that and maybe invest more into the Sun and Queen of Wands. So this could look like needing to let someone or something go in your life with Saturn in the 12th, and then needing to focus instead on the things that are really growing and going well in your life, like maybe your career, for example. It's going to kind of vary from person to person, but there's a sense of like, I need to focus on the things that are within my domain, the things that I feel like are bringing more life and vitality to me. And I also need to make peace with and detach from the things that I'm realizing are imperfect or they don't have maybe what I actually need within them. There is a truth there that I wasn't willing to see before. And now it's really in my best interest to kind of let that go. And this could even be like a perspective where you just had a certain perspective on something and you realize that perspective, that there was an error in that, in your way of thinking. And as a result, it's like, I have to let go of my attachment, to maybe even my emotional attachment to what I think this belief is doing for me. Let me roll some astro dice to see exactly how this might be affecting you guys. So we have Pisces, 7th house, and Neptune. So if the astro dice are speaking to your experience, this might be impacting you relationally, which I think it is, again, for everyone around the full moon because of Venus being opposite Saturn. So if this is the case for you, you might come to realizations that some aspects of relationships are not what you thought they were. And that actually would make sense with the South Node moving through your 7th house at this time. It's almost like all of the baggage that can sometimes go unnoticed or overlooked gets brought up at that time when the South Node moves through 7th, and you start to realize where you maybe were over idealizing something or were ungrounded in your perspective about someone or something in your relationships. And this could also be contracts as well. So it could be potential work relationships. But there is this commitment that you have to an entity or to a person that I think you might realize, you just might see the truth of a situation a little bit more clearly. And then from that place, it's like maybe instead of getting wrapped up emotionally in the experience of that loss in a way, where you're realizing that it wasn't like you thought it was. It's actually a little bit more tainted or disappointing or something. And then if you really flow into that, I think it could get extremely overwhelming experiencing that loss. But instead, I think it's important to let go, of the attachment to that thing, so that when you do experience these emotions, it's serving you as a way to help you let go, rather than to get stuck down in a negative cycle. And sometimes Jupiter and Saturn can play off together and create negative beliefs. So we want to kind of avoid that with this Sun and Queen of Wands by focusing on what's going well, by maybe focusing on your career or your workout routine or your looks or your friends or your intuition and these new hobbies and interests of yours. There's a sense of like, I'm investing that into myself. So I really feel like that's the advice for you guys. I hope that makes sense. If it does, if it resonates at all, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. This is taking place during, again, this August 19th full moon, although it's not exact until 31st. And so during this full moon, Jupiter will be with Mars in the third, really igniting you to take action on things. And this could look like you trying to kind of step outside of your comfort zone, learn something new, experiment with something new, socialize with new people, go on a trip somewhere. But there's a sense of kind of like adventurousness, especially within your kind of local community or your city. There's a sense of like, I'm going to get up and do something different today, or put myself out there in some kind of way to have more of this like extroverted energy. And I definitely see that with the Sun and Queen of Wands. It's like this extroversion and this vitality and this light that you're bringing into the equation. I think you should really focus on that. And with Saturn in the sixth, Saturn in the 12th, opposite Venus in the 6th, there could be some tension within relationships or within work dynamics with others. And I think it's just kind of important to, again, let go or detach from what you think it should have been and accept how things are, maybe not act on whatever it is that you're normally invested into, and then just do your best to let go of fear around the equation or fear around that situation. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys. I hope that resonates. If so, please comment down below. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising and sun. So for you guys, this Jupiter-Saturn square is going to be happening in the 2nd and 11th houses. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, this is exact on the 31st, but it's definitely implicated during this full moon in Aquarius on the 19th of August. So I want to talk about your cards first, and then I want to get more into the astrology. So the first cards that I pulled for you guys are the Six of Wands reverse and the Knight of Pentacles upright. And to me, when I saw this, the words that came to me were working hard behind closed doors. The Six of Wands, when it's upright, has to deal with somebody gaining recognition and notoriety or even fame for the things that they're doing. People are congratulating them. People are proud of them. They have an external kind of face for the work that they've accomplished. The Knight of Pentacles is somebody who's working very hard, very consistently. They are never giving up. They're kind of putting their heads down, showing up day after day, and they're really in that kind of grind era. It's not necessarily the time of all the accolades. So having this Six of Wands reversed with this card makes a lot of sense to me, because that public notoriety hasn't yet come for you guys. You guys are still in that grind phase. And I think that this makes a lot of sense with Mars and Jupiter together in your 2nd house. This is a time of manifestation with Mars and Jupiter in the 2nd. It is a time of practical efforts, of really kind of valuing the material comforts, I guess, that you would get as a result of your efforts. But because Saturn is squaring this Jupiter and Mars, it's blocking a little bit that kind of the accolades. It's blocking the full fruit that you would get from the situation. It's saying that you're putting certain amount of work in, but that there may not be the full enchilada coming on the material plane because of this square to Saturn. And again, Jupiter and Mars in the 2nd, they kind of have this confidence when they're together. And the second is a lot about the material reality. So I have confidence and desire to go out and like make my place in the world, to earn money, to establish myself as somebody who is maybe a thought leader or who's good at this thing that I'm doing. And I want to have success, basically. I want to have security as a result of my efforts. So that's like the desire and the drive of Jupiter and Mars, and they're willing to go to great lengths to do that. But again, with Saturn making this square and Saturn being in the 11th house, there could be some factors in your life that maybe make you feel like your blessings are delayed or blocked because of the energy of Saturn. Saturn can oftentimes, being in the 11th, it could indicate that there are relational aspects that come into play that are creating difficulties in your manifestations. It could indicate that maybe you have existing responsibilities in relationships with friends or with your community or with an organization that requires your attention and your energy. And because of that, you maybe don't have the full capacity to give to what you're trying to manifest. That's just for yourself. But there's a sense here that something in your life, it doesn't just have to be relationships, but there's something in your life that is kind of getting in the way. This could be a mindset. This could be a person. This could be, again, something that you're currently investing into. This could be just kind of loopholes and things that you have to jump through in order to achieve this thing. You know, the long-term steps. It could just be logistics and things of that nature. So there's a lot of variations of this that will apply to each of you as individuals. But what I'm seeing with this Magician and the Chariot in reverse is this kind of oxymoron of, I'm in this phase of really wanting to manifest something of my own with my own two hands, something that I feel like I'm skilled at, or that I have the knowledge, or again, the skills for that thing, that I can create this, I can bring this into reality with this Magician card. But with the Chariot in reverse, maybe I feel like I don't have the necessary support, or I don't have the necessary like speed, the rapidness. It feels like things are maybe slowing down, or it feels like things are unnecessarily kind of like delayed. And so that might be the frustration here, is that I have this really powerful message, or this thing that I want to create, or this thing that I want to go out and do, and I feel like I'm skilled, I feel like I'm capable, I have a history with this, or I have a natural talent with this. But then once I like get to work and I'm really putting my head down, I feel like I can't get ahead, or I feel like things are not progressing as quickly or as easily as I would like them to. And there's a sense of frustration around, I think, the speed and like the amount of work that you have put into this or are putting into this, and feeling like you're stopping short, or like you're not, the ball isn't rolling like you would want it to. And I pulled this Miracles card, which is your advice, which has a lot to deal with you guys needing to believe that miracles are possible, and not give up hope and give up faith that you can absolutely have this. This is, for me, this is like a long-term dream with Saturn in the 11th, Jupiter in the 2nd. This is like a plan, a practical plan to achieve a very long-term, big kind of dream that you're doing on your own with your own two hands, with your own skills, and you're valuing that within yourself. But I feel like you might struggle at times if other people don't believe in you, if you don't have that support, if you don't gain that public recognition or traction as quickly as you'd like to. And there's a sense of like, I think I'm good at this, but now I'm starting to question, or now I'm not so sure if this is even going to be possible for me. And it can kind of weigh on your sense of confidence, especially at this full moon when Saturn is opposite Venus in your 5th house. You can really question your own sense of skills or gifts or talents. And again, it's kind of, the 5th house is really, especially with Venus here, is really where we start to be appreciated for shining our light and like showing our uniqueness and showing our unique skills, and people appreciate those things. It's a house of performance, but Saturn is there again blocking that and creating maybe criticism or uncertainty or fear where you maybe don't put yourself out there, or you do put yourself out there but you're not supported and things don't progress as quickly as you would like them to. So there's a sense of maybe frustration around this, where you have a lot to offer, but maybe you feel like other people are not necessarily on board, or you are scared to put yourself out there. So I rolled the dice. I got the 11th house, Aries, and Mercury. So yeah, I feel like you guys have something that you need to communicate or to market or to express in some way in a public sphere. The 11th house often relates to the online world as well. Though it doesn't have to, but there's a sense of like networking, needing to get yourself out there, and especially with Aries energy, needing to maybe be a little bit brave and take a risk in terms of marketing or your message, or promoting yourself in some way, vouching for yourself, trying to make friends, or standing up for yourself if somebody criticizes what you're doing or anything like that. But there's a sense of kind of being bold in the way that you express and put yourself out into the world, because whatever you have to share is worth hearing. And I think if you are too scared and you don't actually try to be seen in some kind of way, I think you will regret that later, because this is something that you are very naturally talented at. So I hope that makes sense for you, Taurus. If it does, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. This full moon, I haven't been mentioning for everybody else, but this full moon is squaring Uranus. So there's quite an erratic energy to it, and Uranus is in your first house. So to me, this is you guys kind of needing to rebel and push back in certain ways around other people trying to define you, to slow you down, to inhibit you. It's like, I'm willing to shake up my routine. I'm willing to step out of the box. I'm willing to rebel against your message or challenge this. I'm willing to do something different to get unstuck and get moving. And I feel like that's the energy around this full moon on the 19th that you guys are confronting, which I think can help propel you to overcome this Jupiter square Saturn, which is exact on the 31st. So again, I hope that makes sense for you guys. If it does, or if it resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini rising and sun. So for you guys, this Jupiter-Saturn square is happening in your 1st and 10th house. So Jupiter's in the 1st, Saturn's in the 10th. And I have a few messages for you guys. First of all, I pulled 2 pairs of cards, one for Jupiter and then one for Saturn. So what I'm seeing here with Jupiter in your 1st is this potential for a number of things. One is self-indulgence. So this could be eating too much, shopping too much, just experiencing too much pleasure without the discipline necessary to kind of rein things in and keep things in your life under control and up to certain standards that you have. And Jupiter tends to go overboard. This can also mean that you take on too much. Maybe you spread yourself too thin. You have too many social plans. You have too many projects. You have too many goals. And you start to kind of drop some of the balls that you're juggling in that process. This could mean that you need to budget or go on a diet because of the way that you've been going into excess. It could indicate that you've been maybe feeling pressure or put too much pressure on yourself to look a certain way, especially with this beauty card and this Jupiter being in your 1st house about the appearance and our body. There is definitely a pressure on things looking a certain way, or you looking a certain way, or your body or your face or whatever, and feeling maybe uncertain about that. So there's this focus on, at the time of Jupiter in the 1st, on things potentially going overboard in terms of what you're committing to, what you're eating or indulging in, or what you're focusing on, or even becoming, it can kind of go 2 ways. It can be that you become like overly confident in something as well, which is very much possible. And with the square to Saturn, it would kind of bring you back to reality that, okay, you're not there yet. You're jumping ahead. You're, feeling like it's going to happen super fast, but things have to play out in their natural course of time. So there's a sense of things, of maybe, again, not having the accurate measure of things in your life. This could also indicate that you experience confidence at certain moments, but then with the square to Saturn can also feel like you're not sure. And because of that lack of sureness, you might take one step forward, two steps back, or one step forward and pause, and kind of feel a little bit inconsistent in your actions towards certain goals, because maybe you are fearful of the outcome, or fearful of can I do this? Is this right for me? Is my whole heart in this? And so there can be that kind of push-pull where you're wanting to progress, you're needing to progress, but then Saturn brings in that element of doubt and of uncertainty. Or the opposite, where you're super, super confident and you're like, I totally got this. I don't even need to practice. I don't even need to study. And then Saturn comes in and it's like, okay, no, you failed that test. Like, you didn't put enough effort in, and you can be confident, but also you need to follow through with the actions. So there's a sense of needing to, I feel like really just needing to believe in yourself. With the Empress in reverse and the Strength in reverse, it feels like a weakness. These cards, the Empress is it's a Venusian energy. It's like having a lot of compassion for ourselves. But it's in reverse. So it's like we're not even fully having the compassion and love for ourselves that we need, which normally we would with Jupiter moving through your first. But the square to Saturn really challenges that. And then we have Strength in reverse. So normally we are really strong and we are confident and we have the resiliency to keep going past hardships. But with it in reverse, we are maybe not so sure of ourselves. And so we're not super loving and compassionate with ourselves, and we're not super sure of ourselves and resilient in these hard circumstances. And so it can feel like things are hard to bring to life because we don't have the necessary ingredients at this time. And it's crazy because Jupiter in your sign is one of the biggest blessings. But I think you have to overcome this hurdle of the Saturn square, where you start to, with this beauty card, find the beauty in yourself, in the things that matter, finding the value in the things that matter, looking for what's going right in your life or what you're doing well, and focusing on the things that you, again, really value, so that you have that resiliency. So finding the beauty in yourself will have you build up that compassion for yourself, and then also focusing on what you value will help you have the resiliency. So I really feel like this beauty card is kind of giving many messages here. So the Saturn energy, I pulled other cards for that. I got the Magician and the Page of Pentacles. So Saturn is in your 10th house. This is very much time of putting in the work, getting ahead in your career, getting ahead in your life, establishing something for your future self that is going to maybe have a lasting impact on your life or others. And so this is a lot of discipline that's required during this time. And with Saturn being in Pisces, there's very much like a spiritual energy to this, which we'll come back to in a second. But this isn't just about the practical stuff. When we're talking about Saturn, that's usually what we think of. But with Saturn and Pisces, there's this spiritual element that's really powerful for guiding your career decisions. Again, we'll come back to that. So for these cards, Magician and Page of Pentacles in reverse, you guys are trying to do something on your own that, again, has substance to it. So that has longevity to it, something that feels very important for this next 30 years of your life. So with that being said, obviously this will kind of depend on where you're at in life, like what that means. That could be going to school for a subject that you think will impact your career for 30 years. Or if you're retiring, that could be like setting up your life in a way that will ease you through every transition in the next 30 years. So there's a sense of having a long-term plan that you're working towards with this Magician that is very much dependent on things that interest you, that you enjoy, that you are skilled at, that you can do on your own and feel confident in. That's what you're kind of working towards. But with this Page of Pentacles in reverse, there's this sense of, again, kind of like inconsistency, losing focus, dropping the ball, or you're like overdoing it, where you're working so hard and you're not connecting with your purpose or with yourself or with your body or with your why or with your needs, and you're kind of like burning out. So it can go in either direction, where you are wanting to create something substantial, but maybe because of this square to Jupiter, there are times when you lack the confidence to keep going, or you are, again, with Jupiter, overdoing it, overworking, trying too much to the point of having not a lot left to give and not even fully feeling like engaged with life, maybe depressed with life because of the amount of work that everything is taking and the exhaustion that comes with that. So your advice here with this communion card is to come back to spirit. All of these issues are things that I think can be kind of let go of to spirit, where if you are, I mean, really, I think anything can be solved with having time to connect with your higher self, to your spirit guides, or whatever your practice is. But there's a sense of needing to look for the signs, of needing to take time out to maybe meditate or to pause or to connect with the like reason for all of this, the purpose, the meaning behind all of this, the next steps that you should take. Tap into your intuition to know maybe when to work less hard or more hard, or when you need to believe in yourself more, or when you need to have a reality check a little bit more. So it's all about kind of finding the right balance with Jupiter and Saturn here. And one of the ways that you can do that is by communing with the divine and having the divine show you what that right balance is. And with Saturn being in Pisces, again, a very spiritual influence, you need to commune with the divine to understand the next steps for yourself, to understand how to regulate your work and your flow of work and your consistency with work. And a little bit more around like trusting the process that it takes to kind of unfold your big life goals, and how you have to kind of build yourself up to hold those big life goals. You have to change as a person. You have to become more as a person, which is why Jupiter is in your first. And Saturn's squaring it, saying you want to reach for these big horizons. You have to step up. You have to become better, bigger, stronger, more resilient, more compassionate, more intuitive, more full of love for yourself in this story, more grounded and practical, or whatever that is. And so spirit can help you do that. Spirit can help you become more, essentially, or transform. And I don't mean to say that you're less right now. It's probably more is probably not the right word, but it's like you're upping your energetic capacity to hold on to these bigger goals by becoming a larger container of some sort. So we have Leo, Mars, and the fourth house. Okay, yeah, I guess I do want to mention. So at the time of the full moon on the 19th, Venus is in your fourth, opposite Saturn in your 10th. So I really feel like there's something going on here with your comfort zone, your sense of like what's familiar to you, what is safe to you, that I think is needing to be challenged right now. And that could come from this kind of soft energy with the Empress in reverse and the Strength card of like, oh, I don't want to, I don't know. It's just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take that risk, or I don't want to have to like push past something. There's a sense of like, again, this energy feels like a bit like limp and soft and not engaged, or like puny or weak in a way with these cards in reverse. And I feel like that's kind of an extreme, but there's a sense of like kind of feeding into, there's a potential for us to feed into our comfort zone, and that weakness of I don't believe in myself, or I don't have the strength it takes, or the courage it takes. I'm being cowardly or inconsistent. I'm not trying. So this is not going to be for all of you, but some of you might feel that way with Venus in the fourth opposite Saturn. You might want to kind of go towards your comfort zone, but then you're being pulled into your career, into your big goals and big dreams with this Leo and Mars energy to take a risk, to be seen, to put yourself out there, to try something hard. And that might feel scary for you. That might feel scary. And this doesn't even have to just be career-wise. This could be relationally. This could be in any area of your life that you are needing to become more, but you might still kind of pull back and go like into your shell and into your comfort zone and not want to leave. And that's the kind of like weak energy that I'm talking about, that resistance towards the externalization that's trying to happen right now for you. Okay, I kind of want to pull another card for you guys. I just feel like this reading has been a little negative. So let me, Spirit, what do you want to say to Geminis? Because this is your time to shine, really. With Jupiter in your first, this is your time to be growing massively, to take on some maybe bigger goals than you've ever thought of before, to challenge yourself physically. You know, this is a time where a lot can be born in your life. Yeah, look, I pulled the sperm card and it says potential, excitement, energy, and sexual energy. I did forget to mention that Mars is also Jupiter in your first. So with this beauty card, you might be more attractive right now. You might actually be more like sexually magnetic to people, or creatively magnetic to people, or inspiring to people. But also with that square to Saturn the 10th, there could be, again, like an inability to fully see that in yourself. Or you might be so confident in yourself and then other people kind of knock you down. So it's like we don't want to go into any extreme here where you don't believe in yourself or you're like overly cocky, I guess. It's like somewhere in between. I think everyone's different. So it depends on what your chart looks like, which way you might go. Okay. The excitement when entering into a new romantic and or sexual relationship. You may be experiencing heightened emotional and sexual feelings at this time. While it can be wonderful to revel in these feelings, don't allow these intense emotions to get in the way of your understanding of where the relationship might be headed or what you want from the relationship. Okay, I'm not really sure because I didn't really see there could be stuff around relationships, but maybe this is a sign for you guys who are wanting a relationship, which oftentimes Jupiter moving through the first can bring that. It's a relational planet, and it is in the first house of self, which makes you attractive, and it also mirrors the seventh house of relationships since it's opposite it. So some of you, I guess maybe a side note, could find yourself a partner at this time, but I feel like what it's saying is to not get swept off your feet. What to me is super important here is this energy of potentiality. I feel like when Jupiter's in your first, you are in a phase where a lot of things have great potential, and the square with Saturn is going to challenge that. It's going to make you have to overcome certain things in your life in order to realize that potential. And this could be in a romantic relationship. This could be in your career. This could be in your health. This could be just around you believing in yourself. It doesn't matter, but there's a sense of this is your time to shine and reach that potential. And it's okay if you encounter uncertainties or difficulties or doubt or whatever, because ultimately that's meant to be there to create the toughness and the hardness that I feel like is kind of lacking with these cards in reverse, the Strength and Empress in reverse. It's here to create that toughness that you need to really see something through. So that is your message for you, Gemini. I hope that resonates. If it does, please do comment down below. Don't forget to also share this video with your friends if they're also Gemini. Also subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Cancer, Rising, and Sun. This Jupiter square Saturn is happening in your 12th and 9th house. So Jupiter in the 12th, Saturn squaring Saturn in the 9th house. And one of the things that I feel like can happen with a placement like this is definitely a challenge of your existing beliefs and your ability to trust in the universe. That is a similar thread through both the 12th and the 9th house. Jupiter in the 12th, I often see as a time when things can happen kind of behind the scenes where you're getting support and there are synchronicities and things that can help you in your life unravel elements. I feel like what that does is help you unravel certain elements of your own internal blockages within your psyche to overcome them, to make progress forward. And it's not always in your awareness. You don't always know why it's happening or when it's happening, but there are things that I feel like that again happen behind the scenes, maybe during your sleep that you're processing it, or maybe you are just energetically being changed. But there's this kind of shift from this is how I've always been to having basically a breakthrough or overcoming something that you may have struggled with. And I can really see that with the Queen of Wands upright and the Devil in reverse. It's this overcoming of kind of like negative traits or behaviors or addictions or cycles that you could be in, and getting unstuck from them. So if you've always had a bad habit of staying up super late and eating really poor foods, or overspending, or dating the wrong people, or sabotaging your success, or yada, 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 it's like this Jupiter in the 12th is helping you, again, unravel the threads that have created the beliefs and the actions and the subconscious behaviors that made that a reality for you. And by unraveling it, it's like you get unstuck. You are able to just suddenly be the person who doesn't have that pattern anymore, or who doesn't sabotage, or who doesn't undermine themselves, or doesn't have like a fear of their own greatness, or whatever it is. Basically, it's going to be different for all of you what that looks like, but there is a sense of things kind of flowing in your life. And that's actually the advice card that I got for you guys. I got the blood vessel, and we think about blood, it's literally the thing that keeps us alive. I mean, many things keep us alive, but it flows through our body, and it has this rhythm to it. But we can disrupt the rhythm through our own fears, or again, our own sabotage. And so this blood vessel card is talking about allowing the flow to occur and avoiding restriction. If there are things in your life that make you feel restricted, the advice was to try to slow things down, minimize your stress, maybe take less on, work on your confidence in yourself, create plans and things that you can look forward to, that you're excited about to grow into. But if there's things in your life that restrict you, it's time to, again, maybe slow down and allow yourself to move through that, so we can pick up the pace, but just like create a more consistent flow in your life, which I think that you're definitely doing with this Jupiter in the 12th. You are getting unstuck, but then we have the Saturn squaring to this. And so again, there may be times where you feel like you're making progress and you're not sabotaging as much, or you're doing different habits that are healthier. But then with Saturn in the 9th, you might still feel like at times you are lacking faith, or uncertain, or you just have maybe a more negative kind of perspective. Like, is this even going to be possible for me? These things that I want, or this direction that I want to move into, or this person I want to become, is that even possible? And so you could have this kind of uncertainty in the universe and what is available for you. So the two cards I pulled for Saturn in your 9th are the World card and the Five of Pentacles. So the World card is about reaching some kind of culmination or some kind of achievement. With Saturn being in the 9th, this also kind of represents the world in a more obvious sense, where 9th house relates to all things like travel, foreign, and world related. So there could be a correspondence there. But in general, the world, again, means that you're reaching a completion, a successful completion of something. But then we have the Five of Pentacles. So I feel like, I don't know, there's almost like this feeling of, I accomplished something, but I still feel like I'm lacking something, or I'm making progress. Like maybe I am not self-sabotaging, or I did something to have a kind of breakthrough or make forward movement in my life to free up something, or get out of an old cycle, an old perspective. And yes, I've completed something successfully, but then I still have this Five of Pentacles energy where I feel both accomplished and lacking at the same time. Like I'm turning my brain and focusing on what else is missing, what else isn't going right, why I'm unsupported, why I don't make enough money, why it's not possible, yada, yada, yada. So there's a sense of like kind of turning your attention back to things that are missing and focusing on that instead of fully focusing on the things that you are accomplishing right now. And at the time of the full moon on the 19th, Venus is in the 3rd house opposite Saturn in the 9th. So it definitely can be harder to feel really positive when Venus is opposite Saturn. Sometimes we feel a little bit like the joy is sucked out of the world, and we can just veer towards maybe negative kind of perspectives or emotions. So that is possible at this time. And I think that the advice here is, again, if you are getting stopped up or restricted by that, it's important to try to, again, minimize stress, slow down, work on building up your self-confidence, and look forward to plans in your future. Those were the pieces of advice from this card specifically. I'm going to roll the astro dice to see if there's any more messages for you. 11th house, Mercury, and Cancer. So it's funny because you are Cancer. So yeah, I feel like this is a very social, emphasis here, though this full moon might be a little bit weird for relationships. But there's something here where it's like there's something where you kind of need to like put yourself out there, maybe on social media, maybe you need to network, or it feels like coming together with others to be stronger. So like I'm joining a community of people who are doing this thing, or I'm asking my friends to do this with me, or I'm promoting myself along with somebody else. It's like this sense of we're stronger as a herd, and we have a message to share with similar kind of ideologies, like a hive mind, and it reflects who I am, because I rolled Cancer, which is you. So there's this kind of reflection in those other people that you see in yourself. So basically, I feel like part of your advice here as well is to seek community of like-minded people, and that I think can help you maybe get out of this 5 of Pentacles energy where you're like, I don't have enough, or I'm not supported, or I'm focusing on what isn't going right even though you're accomplishing stuff. It's like, let's just put that on the back burner and try to follow people, become part of a group of people who are doing what you want to do. And then that 5 of Pentacles will naturally kind of fall away because you'll have more of that support. You'll see that it's possible. You will have just like a broader perspective, because if you feel like you can't do it, or you're lacking something, but you join other people who have that thing, who are doing it, it breaks the belief that you might have that's constricting you. So that's what I think your advice is. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If it resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This Jupiter square Saturn that's happening on the 31st is taking place in your 11th and 8th house. So Jupiter in your 11th squaring Saturn in your 8th. I want to start off with the cards, and then I'll kind of weave in the astrology as we're going. So the first card that I pulled was the Fool in reverse and the 5 of Wands in reverse. So to me, there's something in your life, when the Fool comes out in reverse, there's something in your life that you are deciding to get kind of like serious about. This free-spirited, fly by the seat of your pants, not having a plan for your life, really just taking it day by day, or just doing what you want in the moment. That energy is something that I think you are moving away from, because the 11th house where Jupiter is, where Jupiter asks you to grow, is all about delaying gratification, having a plan, and making sure that you're working towards something that is larger, sustainable, something that matters to you in the bigger picture of your life. And so Jupiter is asking you to grow out of this kind of childlike energy, or this spontaneous energy that happens maybe naturally for you, and asks you to become a little bit more like cautious or calculated, or to slow down, or to not start something new, or not take a certain risk, but to invest into something that is either existing, or it doesn't have to mean that you don't start something new, but it could. But it could also mean that you are just you're not taking chances, right? You're making sure that you're really doing your homework. You're going in prepared. The Five of Wands, when it's upright, to me is about either internal conflict where we have a lot of competing interests, competing ideas and beliefs, and we're uncertain about how to navigate those. Or we could have external conflict with relationships where maybe other people think we should be doing things differently, or we're just having relationship troubles in general. We're not seeing eye to eye with people. So it's either internal conflict with two different parts of yourselves, or conflict that is also extends to relationships. But there's something here where I feel like you guys are ending a cycle of having a conflict internally or externally. You're getting more focused. You're getting less distracted by disagreements. You are becoming clear. You're working on a plan or long-term goals. And I feel like that's what Jupiter in the 11th is giving you. The 11th house is also an area of relationships. So Jupiter does come in here and improve those relationships and improve our ability to be able to connect and meet other people. So again, I just feel like it's clearing things up within you or within your dynamics with others. So that's great. But then, of course, we have the square to Saturn. So Saturn is in your 8th house, and this can be a little bit challenging because the 8th house is often where we feel like just a little bit more insecure or triggered by something, or just like we maybe don't have enough money, or like we're struggling to get out of a difficult emotion, or feelings from the past can come up, or we don't trust ourselves or others. So Saturn in the 8th in general can be a journey that's a little bit more difficult than Saturn in the other houses. So with Saturn and Pisces, I think you'll feel better, honestly, when Saturn moves into Aries, but you still have a little while to go. So Saturn coming into, or Saturn in your 8th can create those insecurities. One of the things that I feel like it's trying to help you do, though, is it's trying to help you do the same things that I was talking about with this Magician and the Knight of Swords in reverse. I feel like this is a period of time where you're needing to realize like how powerful you are, how much you can accomplish when you are not in a reactive energy with the Knight of Swords in reverse, when you are not moving so fast or changing your mind or being like non-committal or taking on too much. There's this energy of like, when Knight of Swords is upright, there's a lot of ideas, but there's not a lot of consistency and longevity. And this Magician card is a master manifestor, somebody who knows what they're good at. So with this card next to the Knight of Swords, it's to me, you guys getting really clear on what your skills are, what your assets are, and then being less, again, risky, like you're risk averse right now. And that's definitely recommended. When Saturn is moving through your 8th house or even natally, this is something I wouldn't invest in things like Bitcoin. I would not take too many chances financially. I would kind of follow the rules in terms of what's been done and what works and what's maybe more cautious when it comes, or conservative when it comes to spending money. So but this also goes for like life decisions as well. This is really not the time to take on a lot of risk. This is a time to create a plan for your long-term future. We can see that here at the 7 of Pentacles and 2 of Wands. Build something that lasts a test of time. Work hard on something that doesn't really give you that get-rich-quick scheme or has immediate results or is super gratifying in the moment. It's like we need to slow everything down and realize that the things that you want in life are going to come with more time. And if you can be okay with that, then you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And so I really see that it's important to have a plan right now. And I really feel like you're coming into that energy. You're leaving the riskiness behind. You're not throwing caution to the wind anymore. You're considering all avenues and you're making important long-term decisions for yourself. But you might have to overcome your own personal like doubts along the way, because when we're doing something that requires a lot of time before we see the results, we can feel uncertain, we can feel insecure, we can have a lot of doubt with the Saturn in the 8th that challenges you psychologically in that process of attaining your goals. So I think a lot of that is going to come up in this longer cycle. So be aware that you are meant to have those challenges, and that's not a sign to stop. For your advice card, I pulled the brain, and this card talks all about having creativity, imagination, knowledge, intellect, and logic. It says inspiration has struck and you're bursting with ideas. You're feeling creative, ambitious, and motivated with a clear vision. That's what I was talking about, having a very clear vision. You've been committed to learning and expanding your knowledge base, and now is a time to apply and build upon everything that you have learned in order to achieve your goals. So yes, I feel like this is saying that you, with the Magician card, you have that knowledge, you have that skill set, you have the foundation, and now you need to do the building part. And you can't do that quickly. You can't do that haphazardly. You can't rush that process. If you really take your time with it and you trust your ideas and you trust your skills to eventually bring fruits for you, I think that you will find that you're very satisfied with the results. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Leo. I hope this resonates. If it does, please do comment down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. All right, and next we have Virgo rising and sun. So for you guys, this Jupiter square Saturn is happening in your 10th, 7th house axis. So Jupiter's in your 10th house, squaring Saturn in your 7th house. And it's exact on the 31st, but it's also taking place at the time of the Aquarius full moon on August 19th, which is why I'm having this come out now. So I want to start off with the cards, and then I'll get into kind of weaving the astrology into all of it. So for everybody, I've been pulling 2 sets of cards, one for Jupiter, one for Saturn. And usually I've just been pulling pairs, 2 pairs. But in this case, for some reason, so many cards came out. 4 came out for both sides. So maybe this is a really prominent time for you guys, especially because Jupiter and Saturn are in angles for you, 10th and 7th house. Those are really big areas of life and are much stronger, felt much stronger. Also, at the time of the full moon, you do have Venus and Virgo in your 1st house, which is opposing Saturn in the 7th. Again, drawing out a lot more personal meaning to this aspect going on. Venus opposite Saturn is challenging. It's challenging for relationships, especially when it is in your 1st, 7th house axis. You can feel maybe insecure or blocked or unsupported, or like there were endings that are bothering you in relationships. And that's kind of the energy that I feel like is going on with this first set for Jupiter. I have the Death card in reverse. And as a clarifier, I pulled the 2 of Cups in reverse, 10 of Wands, and Knight of Pentacles. So the Death card in reverse talks about somebody who's struggling to let something go. And this could mean that things from the past resurface. Emotions are hard to fully process or to fully release. It could feel like things are stagnant, kind of like, emotions, they're meant to flow like the river. But when water becomes stagnant, it attracts bugs, it gets moldy, or algae, it starts to get gross. And that's kind of what I feel like is happening here. There's something in your life that I think, especially in terms of relationships, has become emotionally stagnant, or you've struggled to release it, or you've struggled to come to terms with it, just struggled to let it go in some way. And I can see that with the 2 of Cups, 10 of Wands, and Knight of Pentacles is somebody, like something going wrong, especially in a relationship. Though this might not be the case for everyone, there is definitely a strong emphasis on relationships in the astrology with Saturn in your 7th, opposite Venus in the 1st. I'd be surprised if it doesn't have to deal with relationships at all. But if it doesn't relate, then maybe apply it to another area of life. But something here where there's a soulmate connection, closeness, or something that you really felt matched with in your life that you were connected to, didn't work out. And then we have the 10 of Wands, where you're really carrying the burden of that. You're feeling drained by it, or you're still trying to make it work even when it's not working. And there's a sense of like, I'm kind of becoming hunched back with all the weight and stress of the dysfunction in this thing that I thought was a match for me, or this person that I thought was a match for me, or this best friend or whatever. And it's truly disappointing, and I'm carrying the emotional weight and burden of the situation still. And then this person, I feel like they kind of shift into, I'm going to take this energy and put it into my work, into my future with the Knight of Pentacles. This is a very practical person. They're like very disciplined. They're going to show up every single day, have maybe their routine or the things that they're trying to accomplish. And that I think makes sense with Jupiter in the 10th, where there may be this feeling of things disappointing or not working out in relationships, being challenged in relationships with Saturn in the 7th, which is super common. But then with Jupiter in the 10th, it's like, well, but doors are opening for me in my career, or I can see longevity and progress in my goals or in these other avenues of my life and my work, that I want to put that focus into that instead. And so I feel like that's a good thing, but it might also be kind of like distracting from the process of healing, which I think is helpful and useful so that you don't just stay stuck, but also it can become detrimental if those feelings are never really processed. And so this kind of like delayed grief, delayed, coming to terms with certain like fears or shadows around the difficulties that have happened in relationships, and how those things could be like lingering in the background and still kind of challenging your subconscious. That's the sense that I'm getting. And I can see that with this second set of cards here with the Ace of Cups and the Nine of Swords in reverse. It's like it's almost time to come to terms with your feelings and release some of the fear around them or the anxiety around them, explore the shadows around them, and experience the loss, like experience the emotional processing of the loss or the challenges that you have had in relationships, or in your life in general, but especially relationships. And it's like giving yourself a chance to come out of the depression and see more of the light or the positive, and kind of overcoming. Yeah, I feel like it's like putting the work in emotionally to process things that have happened, release it emotionally so that you can overcome it and come into an era of greater joy. And I feel like with the Empress in reverse, it's a time to really work on your self-worth. With Venus in your first, Venus is the Empress card. They're one and the same. And Venus is in your first challenged by Saturn in this opposition. So there's something here where your self-worth can be challenged. You might feel like you're not pretty enough, like you don't have enough money, you're not doing good enough, you're not valuing yourself enough, you're not feeling like you're as great of a star or as amazing as you are. And so this Empress in reverse tells me that you are needing to, part of the shadow work that you're needing to do is stemming from insecurity or uncertainty or low self-worth, and how that could also affect your relationships and every area of your life, but especially how others react to you, because that's how you are treating yourself. We end with the Three of Cups, which is a card of community, of celebration, of enjoying your social life. And so I do feel like the outcome of this is positive, though you might have to overcome a certain degree of relational strife or challenges, or grieving the past, or overcoming something with others, or letting someone go from your life, or letting go of things that have happened in the past. There's definitely some murky kind of waters that you have to navigate, but eventually I think you're going to build up that confidence, and confront those shadows and come to this place of, I feel really connected with these people. Now that I've worked on my self-confidence, I'm finding people who radiate that back to me. I'm working on my goals and my career and my objectives with Jupiter in the 10th. And then I'm also finding people who match that, who maybe have similar intentions, or who can lift me up or encourage me, or who are inspiring to me. So there's a sense here of you guys kind of reaching a greater place in relationships than before as a result of the inner work that you're doing, as well as, the goals that you're pursuing. Any last advice for my Virgos? I'll actually pull one of these. Oh. Any last advice for my Virgos? The ovum. It's interesting because I think Leo or one of the signs got the sperm. So, okay. Potential fertility, rebirth, hope, and manifestation. That's exactly the kind of energy that I'm seeing. It's going from this kind of despondency, the strife with others, feeling like you're struggling to get past it, and then coming into a time where you're focusing on what the potential is for you, especially in your career, but maybe even in relationships, confronting the past, releasing the past, and deciding that more is possible for you and you're going to have a rebirth. Hope, potential, and new beginnings are on the horizon. If you've been considering making a major change in your life and starting anew, this would be the perfect time for a reinvention or new direction. The ambitions you have been holding on to and working hard at for a while now have the potential to come to fruition. So, I love that for you, Virgos. I hope that that resonates for you. If it does, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to see if Libra, rising, and sun. So for you guys, you have this Jupiter square Saturn happening in your 9th and 6th house axis. So Jupiter's in the 9th, Saturn is in the 6th. So first, I just want to quickly mention that one of the cards that I got for Jupiter was the Two of Pentacles in reverse. And I was just reading about this in this tarot reverse book, which is super interesting. A previous client gave this to me, so thank you so much. I love to read out of this book. And one of the things that it mentioned was literary works or writing, publishing, that type of thing. And I just wanted to briefly mention that Jupiter in the 9th is extremely relevant in terms of publications, writing, and anything related to books. So if that is relevant for you, Libra, you may find yourself in a position right now where you are writing something significant. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the message. So I want to start off with the cards first, then we can get into the astrology. So the first thing I have is Page of Pentacles, Eight of Swords, and the Two of Pentacles in reverse. So to me, the Page of Pentacles is typically somebody starting something off on the material realm that is something kind of new, or it hasn't fully been put out into the world yet. Maybe there are some loose ends that need to be tied up before it becomes something real or the full expression of what it's supposed to be. So there's a sense that you guys may be on a path right now where you're working towards something new in the material world. This could look like, again, I'm going to sit down and write more on this thing, or I want to look into what it would look like to get published, or maybe I've already been writing it, but I have a lot more to go. That's just one example, but doing something in the real world, and this could even be in any area, but the 9th house is often associated with things that are related to travel, to teaching, to learning, to writing, to just disseminating information, religion, sharing one's wisdom, connecting with other cultures. So those are kind of the primary things that it can signify. So there's something in your life that I think you've been on the path towards, but somewhat towards the beginning, or not fully at the kind of culmination period of that project. Then we have the Eight of Swords and Two of Pentacles in reverse. This to me signifies somebody that may feel like they have a lot going on and they are struggling a little bit to juggle it all. So maybe with Jupiter in the 9th, there is a desire to travel, there's a desire to try new stuff or go on adventures. But then we have this square where Saturn in the 6th, where there's a lot of work and there's a lot of responsibilities, and we don't really have as much time to do all the things that we want to do. And so it's kind of like I do one at the expense of the other. And that's sort of how this square, I think, is primarily coming out, is the stress around not being able to maybe find balance or equilibrium, or to juggle it all in a way that feels satisfying to the optimist in all of us. And Jupiter in the 9th is very optimistic, but it's kind of being grounded or pulled back down from its buoyancy by this heavy Saturn energy of responsibility and discipline and things that we just have to do in our day-to-day lives. So that's one thing. Another aspect of this is the potential for a lot of like logistics. So both the 6th and the 9th house can definitely be involved with logistics. Like I have to submit paperwork to get a visa to go live abroad, or I have to, I don't know, if I want to get this published, I have to send the manuscript off by this date. And it's just like a lot of this kind of slowing things down by having to communicate with lots of different people, having things be a little stressful. So there's this sense that maybe you want your life to be growing. You want to be expanding. You want to be trying new things or making progress with the things that you're working on, but things are kind of taking longer, or they're more convoluted, or you have all these responsibilities or this red tape and things of that nature that are kind of getting in the way of things being convenient, being easy, and just growing. And that's probably a pretty frustrating thing with Jupiter the ninth. Jupiter, it has an affinity to this house, and they both of these energies together signify the desire for expansion. So to have Saturn making a square to this planet can be really frustrating, because it can feel like I know that I could have so much. I'm just right there. I'm so close. But then Saturn is like, oh, but you have to make sure that you talk to this person and get permission before you take action on this thing that you want to do. Or you have to make sure that you resolve this, or whatever that is. And so that can feel, again, really frustrating with the Eight of Swords, maybe even to the point where you kind of get in your head and you get anxious and you start to worry, like, is this going to happen? How long is this going to take? Am I capable of this? Like, why are all these things going on? And your advice for this moon, or not this moon, this aspect, is the assurance card. So I really feel like Spirit just wants to come in and tell you, you are guaranteed to have things work out for you. Like, don't worry as much as you are worrying. You are assured. Your success is assured. So what would you feel like, and how would you act if you knew your success was assured? And I think that that's just coming in here to kind of soothe you in a way of that there will be a completion, there will be an ending, there will be an achievement here. So the other aspect of this is Saturn. So I talked about Jupiter. The Saturn aspect, I got the High Priestess, the Emperor, and the Queen of Swords. So Saturn in the sixth house, I actually have this natally. If you look at my chart in Placis, I actually think that Saturn in the sixth works quite well. I mean, when we're not talking about medical astrology, when we're talking about work, I think Saturn in the sixth can be really helpful in certain ways. Not always, but anyway, so that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from these cards, especially because Saturn is in Pisces. So the High Priestess, I think, has the Piscean quality, where you are meant to be kind of like, I don't want to say hustling, but almost this Emperor and this Queen of Swords energy. It has a little bit of that kind of dry, disciplined, not emotional, very strategic, logical. I know this is what this takes, and so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to have this really amazing plan and stick to the plan, and just like a lot of admirable, I would say, qualities of effort and and drive and consistency and discipline and dedication and focus. That is the energy of the Emperor and the Queen of Swords, and also being a little bit more like a leader, and maybe sometimes even cutthroat, and making very clear decisions that this I don't have time for. This is important for me. This is the priority right here, right now. And at this time, we do have Venus opposite Saturn, or at the time of the full moon, which is on the 19th, we will have Venus opposite Saturn in your 12th. So there may need to be some kind of critical decisions around the things that you want to stop doing. Venus in the 12th, any planet moving through the 12th typically has some kind of die-off, some kind of endings that it needs to go through in its cycle. And so there's something here where you might have to cut some things away. That can be very common with the Queen of Swords and the Emperor, who's this leader, and they know there's only so much time and energy. There's only so many people you can hang out with, or so many things you can fit in a day. And so this might be, again, that kind of drier, cutthroat energy of like being decisive. Then we have the High Priestess, which softens it and brings in the water of the Pisces, which is the intuition aspect of this. So I really like this combination, because I think it describes Saturn in Pisces in the sixth house really well, where on one hand, you're very disciplined and logical, and you have a plan that you stick to. And on the other hand, there's always going to be some element of the unknown, of the mystery, of the unpredictable, of your emotions and intuition guiding you to a different path, or making certain changes, or needing to adapt. And that is Saturn and Pisces, that and High Priestess energy coming through. And I think that it's a time where we can both channel discipline and imagination and intuition into our work to be able to combine these energies. So really, I feel like you're going through a phase right now of growing in some area of your life, really, really wanting to grow and having some discipline. But I also think there are going to be certain roadblocks or challenges or delays or red tape or paperwork or whatever that is kind of, or just a lot of things to juggle that's kind of slowing you down and might feel a little bit frustrating. But Spirit just wants to assure you that everything is going to be fine. And if you haven't watched the overview, definitely go ahead and make sure you check that out, because this aspect is super important and links back all the way till 2020. And that is very relevant for what you're going through now, that I think there's some cycle that began then that that the Spirit is trying to assure you is going to come to completion. There's one more thing I wanted to say. What was it? Oh yeah. So this will be exact on, I believe it's the 31st, but it's also going to be implicated in the Aquarius full moon, which is happening on the 19th. So that's what I see for you, my Libras. If that resonates, please let me know down below. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio rising and sun. Today we're going to be talking about Jupiter squaring Saturn in your chart, what that means for you. Make sure that you watch the overview, because I'm not going to cover some really important topics there, like when this is happening, when this first happened, what larger part of the cycle this is about. So definitely make sure you watch that, because that's really significant and is going to give you the larger context for what's going on for you. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So we're going to pull cards, or I did pull cards for Jupiter and for Saturn, and I'm going to talk to you about what that looks like for you. So first of all, you guys have Jupiter in your 8th house and Saturn in your 5th house. Interesting. So I pulled cards for Jupiter. I'm going to talk about the cards first, then we'll get into the astrology. So I started off with the Fool and the 9 of Wands in reverse. And it's kind of crazy because I also pulled, in terms of our advice card, the New Beginnings card. So this very much feels like the same energy as the Fool, that there's something that's turning a new leaf for you guys. And one of the sayings that came to me when I pulled some clarifying cards was to throw your hat in the ring. I think that's the saying. If it's not, please comment down below so you can educate me. But there's a sense of like I haven't fully participated in something, or I want to engage with something or start something that I've been maybe kind of like sitting on my hands or waiting and looking, because that's a very Scorpio thing, is to observe and calculate risk and understand what you're getting into before you dive in. And I feel like that's kind of the energy with this nine of Wands, is this maybe hesitancy and maybe even fear of encountering adversity or strife or difficulty, and kind of like holding oneself back. And so when I pulled a clarifier for the 9 of Wands, I got the Knight of Swords, which is the complete opposite energy. It's somebody who jumps right in, who immediately creates a change, who acts on an opportunity, who isn't afraid to go against the grain or to stand out and do what they want to do. And I really feel that that's something that maybe you've been hesitant about. And so what I'm getting here is that there's a way in which I feel like you guys are going to be called to be brave and face your fears. And that is very much a Jupiter in the 8th house experience. The 8th house is where we store our fears, our insecurities, our uncertainties, pains from the past, our fear also around being vulnerable and relying on people or opening up to people and showing those kind of sensitive parts of ourselves in any situation. And so I really feel like you guys are entering into a phase where you are meant to be facing your fears, taking some kind of risk, even if that's an emotional risk or a financial risk or whatever it is, but taking some kind of chance, throwing your hat in the ring, and almost like being willing to put yourself out there, to have the potential to be rejected, to have the potential for things not to work out, and still going with kind of a fresh, clean slate. And that's super important. And that's why I think this advice with the new beginnings is the way it is. It's because I think that oftentimes, Scorpio, you can kind of hold on to things, especially when we're talking about 8th house, which is where Jupiter is. again, it kind of stores, like it's like this well that stores deep emotions from all the things that have triggered us, and they kind of compound and they sit there and they wait to be brought up again. And I think a lot of these circumstances about putting yourself out there, putting your hat in the ring, or trying something, taking a risk on yourself, a lot of those circumstances can bring up difficult emotional experiences from the past. I mean, it's more common than not to get to feel some type of way when you are running the risk of embarrassment, or of being denied or being rejected, or not being accepted into something, or not being understood about something, or not achieving something. It can really bring up, again, those kind of worst fears, or the things that have already happened to us where we felt that. And I think that the biggest advice here is to truly try to come as a clean slate and not bring those fears and worries into that next thing. So let's say it's a relationship. Let's say you meet somebody new. It's like, I'm not going to bring my baggage into this new relationship. Just because my old partner cheated on me doesn't mean I'm going to anticipate that my new partner is going to cheat on me and not trust them, or kind of create a little bit of a strain in the relationship because of the feeling that something might happen again. And so there is something here around truly letting go of the past, and letting go of maybe any grudges or difficult emotions or fears, and try to come in as fresh of a slate, as clean of, a perspective as you can, just like a baby. Because I truly do think that there's this cycle of suffering that can often happen when we have the Nine of Wands. It's just like, I don't know if suffering's the right word, but there's a sense of like adversity, that everyone goes through adversity. We've all experienced it. And with the Wheel of Fortune card, I feel like it's trying to say that that cycle is completed. If you had a particular issue, like you were cheated on, it's like that's in the past. I think this reading is really trying to show you that that's done with. And I understand having those fears still, because your brain is still processing that. But I think that Spirit really wants to communicate that this is going to be different. This time around is not going to be, you're not going to go through the same issues. It's not going to be the same. And so you can try to put that a little bit more in the back of your mind, or release that, or put yourself at ease, knowing that Spirit wants you to know that this cycle is complete and you're truly starting anew with whatever it is you're trying to go after. However, Saturn, which is squaring Jupiter, can bring up fears of things of the past. And so it is very possible that, just because from this reading that it's starting anew doesn't mean that you'll just like be fresh and clean, right? It's probably going to be a process, because Saturn does tend to bring up those worries. And so obviously be gentle on yourself for all of that. The other thing that I see here is Saturn in the fifth. Saturn in the fifth can have a lot to deal with really trying to kind of come into your own. And this is part of the whole idea of throwing your hat into the ring and really feeling like it's your time. It's your time to shine. It's your time to take that risk on yourself. It's the time to believe in yourself, that you can have that thing, that you can open up and have that beautiful relationship, that you can be that star in a certain way, or you deserve to express yourself in a certain way if you've always wanted that, and to be seen and understood, or you deserve to be valued and to be recognized for who you are as a person, or what you're good at as a person. And I think that that's kind of like the larger journey of Saturn in the fifth, with the Queen of Cups and the Moon describing this, as well as Saturn squaring Jupiter in the eighth, having that kind of emotional experience of the eighth house. To me, this is saying that there's quite a bit that you're going to uncover around your emotional side, around kind of why maybe you have been fearful of getting rejected or things not working out. It's like you're starting to see what was underneath the surface of the issue. So for example, if you were wanting to date somebody, but you were cheated on in the past and you haven't put yourself out there again, and you just haven't thought about why you haven't, maybe at this time you will start to dig and you will see that, oh, actually I'm procrastinating because I'm scared of what will happen emotionally to me as I get vulnerable with somebody. And so you start to uncover the kernel of the truth here. And I feel like you're going to be able to process how you feel about something and come to trust more of your intuition instead of leading with the pain or the fear. Because those emotions, those shadows that can develop as a result of those emotions can become the leading driver into why we make decisions. But with Saturn the fifth, they want you to, the stars want you to make decisions through your heart, through inspiration, through your desires, through a natural like inclination towards self-expression or self-actualization or whatever your soul craves. And so I think that that's a big part of what this square is about, is getting to understand yourself on a deep emotional level and understand when you're maybe being driven by something more primitive or more fearful, more survival based, and try to, again, kind of come at this through new eyes, a new beginning, a fresh slate, like a baby, where you can come into the scenario and wear your heart on your sleeve in a way that I think may feel risky to you. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. Put your hat in the ring. I'm excited for you. I feel very passionate about this message, and I would love to hear how it relates to you. If you want to comment that down below, don't forget to watch the overview again. Also, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, subscribe, share it with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. So today we're going to be discussing the Jupiter square to Saturn that's happening towards the end of the month of August. And I really want you guys to make sure you watch the overview so that you can get the full details around what this means. This is a long 20-year cycle. So if you don't watch the overview, you're really not going to understand how important this is and at what point the cycle started and how it relates to things from the past and how it's going to connect to your future. So make sure you watch that. Okay. So for you guys, you have Jupiter in your 7th house. And then it's making a square to Saturn in your 4th house. So I pulled some cards and I want to talk about the cards first, then we'll get into the astrology. So I pulled for you Chariot in reverse, 6 of Wands reverse, 8 of Swords upright, 7 of Wands upright. So let's talk about what this means. Chariot and 6 of Wands in reverse. There's 2 messages that I have that came through strongly for you guys. The first message, and this maybe one is for one of you and one is for another group of you, but the first message is that some of you guys who might be working on something that is publicly going to be visible, that maybe can impact others, or you're selling it to others, or that there's something that you're doing that has a reach. There's something about that either it's going too slowly and you're a little impatient for the outreach and you're feeling like you're not necessarily there yet, and you might have some worry about that with the 8 of Swords. Or there's some of you guys who are doing something that's going to become public, or you have a certain belief, or you're creating something, or just something in your life is happening that you maybe are like worried about when it comes to people finding out, especially with the 6 of Wands in reverse. Almost like you don't want it to be public knowledge yet. There's like this worry of criticism or of failure or of people not understanding or pushback or judgment, or how it's going to negatively impact somebody if it impacts somebody else. But there's this strong emphasis on others, which is why these cards are talking about Jupiter in the 7th house of relationships. So there's something in your life that is growing that I think is exciting for you, but it does involve other people. It does impact other people. And you're either, again, worried about those people not knowing about it yet and wanting them to know about it because maybe you're trying to promote to them, or you're trying to include them, or you're trying to somehow gather like momentum and presence, or the opposite where you don't want them to know and you're worried about them finding out and how it's going to impact people. So that's the general gist that I'm getting. And with the Chariot in reverse, I feel like all of you guys to some extent could be a little bit worried about the success of something, the outcome of something. Even if it's subtle and in the back of your mind, there could be a little bit of that fear with the 8 of Swords where you start to question, like, is this going to work? Is this going to turn out okay? am I safe in this scenario? And the last card for that group for Jupiter is the Seven of Wands. And this card is around standing your ground, having resiliency, and especially in the face of opposition. So with Jupiter in the seventh, this is a time for you guys to be growing in your way of relating to others. So that means that your existing way of relating isn't going to work as Jupiter moves through your seventh house. It's encouraging you to step outside of your comfort zone or your current boundaries, or your current limits, and your current way of doing things. So, for example, let's say that you are really conflict avoidant, which is not really a Sagittarius thing, but if you are, then Jupiter in the seventh could indicate that at this period, you are meant to be pushed to face certain conflict, to encourage yourself to grow that muscle of being able to have diplomatic conversations and resolve things in healthy ways. Or, which is, let's give another example, which is more common for Sagittarius. Let's say you are maybe a bit bold in the way that you address things, or you're really honest with people about things, and it doesn't always create ease in the connection. Maybe you have to find a way to navigate this situation in order to make it more palatable. And that's a little hard at the time of the Aquarius full moon, where this aspect will kind of be coming into, it will still be going on, but it's not exact yet. But on the 19th, with the Aquarius full moon, Venus will be opposite Saturn, which does create tension in relationships. So it is a little bit harder during this time. And so with you guys also having Jupiter in the seventh, there's quite a bit going on relationally that might feel like you have to overcome something. You have to face something. You have to maybe find agreement where there's disagreement, or make a compromise, or whatever that is, or just have to face something in general. But the Seven of Wands could also indicate that if you're trying to get something going, and you're feeling like you're stalling out, or you're lacking momentum, or you're not getting recognition, this Seven of Wands could also indicate persevering. Even if you feel like others don't believe in you, even if you feel like people are questioning you, or they're telling you to quit, or they're telling you that you need to do this and change your tactics. It's like, this is just saying that, no, this is not the time to necessarily jump ship and just listen to what everybody else says. I think that with Jupiter in the seventh, there is definitely something to say about, again, changing the way that you relate to people. So if you're somebody who never takes in outside information and you're a closed book or you're closed circuit, I think it would benefit you to listen to others and check it against your own instinct and intuition to be able to make important decisions. But for the most part, I feel like, everyone can, yes, benefit from collaboration, but ultimately the Seven of Wands, I think, is not allowing yourself to be steered off course by somebody else's fears or doubts and just lack of faith in your vision. And so that's the message for Jupiter. It's like, how can we be true partners? How can we go through this thing that we're trying to accomplish, or this thing that's happening to us, and still feel like we are being true to ourselves and honest with the people that we love, while also being receptive to feedback and recognizing that we need to stand our ground on the things that really matter and not feel bad about that as well. That's super important. It's like, don't feel guilty. In terms of your advice card, before we get to Saturn, I pulled the assurance card. So Spirit wants you to know that whatever this is, with the Chariot in reverse, Six of Wands in reverse, you might feel like things are not progressing the way that you want them to. This could also be in a relationship where you're trying to meet somebody, you're trying to progress a relationship, and it's slowing you down. And it's like, you can see the vision of you guys being together, but that person can't. Or you can see yourself dating and putting yourself out there, but you're not really finding the matches. So that's another interpretation. But whatever this event is in your life, Spirit wants you to know that it's assured and that you will accomplish it. So you will, meet that partner, or have that successful launch, or have that child that you're worried about. Whatever it is, there's some kind of culmination that is going to turn out positively. But sometimes when we have Jupiter square Saturn, we can really doubt that. And oftentimes we can go through this weird juxtaposition where we have a lot of hope and are excited and then feel like we're really down the next day, or we're really uncertain about it. And we can have this kind of bipolar kind of experience with Jupiter and Saturn. So if that's something that you're going through, normalize that. That doesn't indicate that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing or that you should have fear. It's just a part of the experience. So that's what's going on with Jupiter. And then Jupiter is also squaring Saturn in your fourth. For this, I pulled the Four of Pentacles and the High Priestess card, which the Four of Pentacles to me really gives off the energy of Saturn in the fourth. And then the High Priestess does as well, because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which has the energy of High Priestess. So what do I mean by that? The Four of Pentacles in the fourth house, they both have fours. And the number four is about security. It's about comfort. It's about our home. It's about a sense of stability and safety. And yeah, kind of like where we go to be behind closed doors, to be within our nest and to not have to take certain risks or be seen, or it's like we can be comfortable. And so the Four of Pentacles is somebody who's like really making sure that they are within their comfort zone, that they feel secure, that they're maybe even keeping their cards close to their chest. So this could again indicate maybe like a fear around fully sharing something in your life that's going on, being a little bit more private or uncertain about how other people will take it. This could be being really cautious around something. So I don't want to take any extra risks because it could affect X, Y, and Z. This could also talk about financially trying to be cautious. Well, I want this launch to go well, but I'm not sure if it's going to go well. I'm not sure if the marketing is going as well as I thought it would. So I'm going to make sure that I really budget and I'm saving money, that I'm not taking on unnecessary expenses or risks financially. So there's a sense on whatever area this applies to for you of kind of like being a little bit more careful and uncertain about how to put yourself out there. And the High Priestess card, I think, is telling you that if you are feeling this in certain ways, if you want to be cautious, that's okay. And that you can trust your intuition around what to be cautious about and to what extent. But I think there's also, with the Eight of Swords here with Jupiter, there's also the risk of being overly anxious, overly cautious, and not taking necessary chances or acting on opportunities in the right ways because of a perceived, fear of what could happen when that's not actually going to happen. So this is really about kind of getting your mind straight and making sure that you don't let other people get in your head. So if other people are saying that's not going to work, or this isn't good for you, or you shouldn't do this, it's really about tuning that out and listening to only what resonates with you, and only to the things that aren't just driving fear into you, but are actually reasonable, pieces of information to take in from that person or that business or that, person online or whatever. So there's this advice here, I think, to rest assured that it will be successful, to be cautious when you want to be, but also realize that you can stand your ground and persevere in whatever situation is going on, and that there's this delicate balance between taking advice, listening to other people, while also maintaining your truth, versus kind of being fearful of what others say or falling prey to it in a certain way. So anyways, I tried to summarize it there. I hope this makes sense. If it does, please let me know down below. If it resonates, I would love to hear your story in the comments. Please don't forget to comment, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I myself have Capricorn rising and sun. So before I jump into the video, we're talking about Jupiter square Saturn today. Please watch the overview for the full context of when this is happening and what part of the cycle this is all about. It's a 20-year cycle that began in 2020, so make sure you check all that out. But this aspect is going on at the time of this full moon and will continue throughout August and is very significant. So I wanted to address that today. So for you guys, you are having Jupiter in the 6th house squaring Saturn in your 3rd house. And I'm going to talk about the cards first, then we'll get into a little bit more of the astrology. So first of all, with Queen of Swords and the Five of Swords in reverse describing this Jupiter situation, there is something in your life that you need to address. The Five of Swords upright can represent conflict, disagreements, disputes, things not going well with people in terms of communication and ideas. The Queen of Swords cuts that BS and she says, here's my truth. Here's what's going on inside of me. Here's what I need you to know about my personal experience. And she changes the conflict into something that becomes a resolution that starts to repair or resolve. Even though it's not immediate, it may not be perfect. There's a need to address how you're really feeling. And so with Jupiter in the sixth, this could indicate that there's something, for example, if you work with somebody or for somebody, there could be some tension within the workplace or within that relationship that you need to bring up, especially if it comes to feeling somehow stifled by that dynamic, somehow controlled, or I pulled this joint card as the advice or the outcome, and in many ways this is all about freedom and independence and having flexibility and starting something new. And I feel like that's what this is trying to say, that you are coming into an era where you are meant to feel free within the work that you're doing, within your responsibilities, within your relationships within the workplace. And also in regards to just, if you work for yourself, or if you're not working directly with other people or you're not having issues with people that you work with, this could just be talking about just everyday relationships, and like responsibilities that you have, but having to be kind of clear and decisive about what you will and won't take on, and not getting like saddled with somebody else's stuff. There's a sense with Jupiter in the sixth of becoming more of a leader and more empowered in how you manage your life, how you manage your responsibilities, your time, your health. And this Queen of Swords and Five of Swords reverse can indicate that there could be maybe a lot of stuff that was going on, and you have to be clear and decisive and cut through the BS to get to the heart of what matters. What do I prioritize? And how do I, again, kind of focus on what's going to create that sense of freedom and flexibility in the things that I do? This could also be about health and mental health, because sometimes the Five of Swords can indicate that there was maybe some kind of disappointment or a loss, or something didn't work out the way you wanted to. And this Queen of Swords can indicate cutting through that and not getting bogged down in that, seeing this as an opportunity and looking to what's next, rather than getting stuck in the, I feel bad, I'm going to go into this cycle and I'm going to focus on that and I'm going to get trapped. So this energy at the time of this square for you guys is about getting unstuck, progressing, feeling again like you have the ability to flow, find movement, and attract kind of like new opportunities, new energy, or a new dynamic into your life with another person or with a goal that you have. It's going to depend on what it is that you're looking for. We also have the Devil in reverse and the Knight of Cups upright to describe Saturn. So Saturn is in the third house. So, honestly, maybe these cards with Queen of Swords and the Five of Swords reversed, maybe these cards honestly describe Saturn in the third house more, because the third house is where we communicate. It's where we have to address our issues, where we have to be honest, and we have to have this kind of solid mindset and this like willpower, I feel, over our mind, where we have to dominate our own mind. We don't let our fears get the better of us and have us kind of running from the confrontation or running from the problem or running from making a decision and stay in a wishy-washy. No, Saturn in the third wants you to get clear, and it wants you to trust your decisions and trust what you want to communicate and express to others. So I do feel like there's an overlap there. But we have this Devil in reverse and the Knight of Cups. And this to me is indicating that there is, again, when the devil's upright, it's somebody who is trapped, somebody who feels like they're stuck in a situation. Maybe they're stuck, again, taking on somebody else's responsibilities or being told to do something by somebody else, or they're stuck in this feeling of having too many things going on and not sure what they should be doing, so they're not progressing in the right ways. But there's a sense of like, I'm feeling trapped, I'm feeling limited, I'm feeling inflexible. And that's what you're coming out of as a result of being direct, communicating, or making important decisions, or handling something head on. So you're coming out of this feeling of being trapped. And this could even be a limiting belief where I'm trapped in my own head. I'm trapped in the way that I think this is supposed to be. And I'm getting stuck in this thought pattern, this cycle. And so Saturn in the third is really about overcoming that, overcoming your blockages, your limiting beliefs, the things that you think that you are controlled by or trapped by, and realizing that you can detach, you can be independent, you can be free, you can be outside of that control. And I love that the Knight of Cups is here as well, because it's coming out of a phase of feeling defined or stuck in a box by something else or someone else or something that's going on in your life. Maybe even ruled over by, again, a limiting mindset, or just having a lot of responsibilities and feeling limited by that. You're coming from that, and you're moving into a much more expansive space with the Knight of Cups, into an energy of somebody who is dreaming up of possibilities, who is idealizing something, who is thinking of potentials, who is maybe even feeling free as a result of making certain decisions or having certain conversations, and starting to feel the excitement and the almost like romanticism of your life now that you've addressed this thing or resolved this thing or focused on something. It's like, now I can feel, again, like my mind is able to focus on the things that are so much more uplifting, that are encouraging, inspiring, creative, romantic, imaginative, and again, very, very freeing. So there's a sense here at this aspect, or even at this full moon, where I think you guys are going to be coming from a phase of feeling stuck or trapped, addressing something head on, making certain important decisions, or communicating something, and then coming to an era of feeling a lot more free and authentic and inspired to romanticize your life and think about what else is possible and grow into something much bigger and much more helpful for you as well. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. If that resonates, I would love to hear your story about how this impacts you down below, or how this is, moving through your life right now. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius rising and sun. So today we're going to be talking about Jupiter squaring Saturn for you. And Jupiter's in your fifth, squaring Saturn in your second. To understand the full context of this, definitely go back and watch the overview to understand when it's happening, what it's connected to. This is a part of a larger cycle. So we're going to talk about the cards first, then we're going to dive into the astrology. So first off, with your cards for Jupiter, I have the King of Wands and the Seven of Swords. So as I mentioned, you have Jupiter in the fifth house of self and expression and children and sensuality and lots of different things. So you have, again, the King of Wands, Seven of Swords. This to me is this really passionate, cunning, strategic, wise, leadership type of energy. And the fifth house definitely has similarities with the King of Wands, where the things that we are really inspired by, we will naturally start to emanate. We will take up more presence. We will take up, again, a leadership role or position, because people will look to us. They will see that we are gifted at it, especially when we become the King of Wands, which is a studied and masterful person at that thing. So not only are you naturally gifted at it, not only are you passionate about it, but you've put in the sweat equity to become a master over that skill. So there's something here with Jupiter in your fifth, where this is a time to put into, again, bettering yourself or improving something in your life that you feel you have a strong affinity towards. And on top of that, bringing in this element of, again, strategy or wisdom or cunning kind of mental aptitude, bringing that into the equation, because Jupiter is in Gemini. So this could mean that you're deciding to learn from a really wise person, or that you are going to practice in a certain way that helps you really not just go through the motions, but helps you do it from a place of, I guess, like more consciousness, more presence to make yourself, again, really good at that thing. So this could be anything. This could be parenting your child, or creating a piece of art or music. This could be starting a new relationship. But there's a sense here of you having like the ability to kind of like glow up in a particular area by becoming skilled and strategic at it, and leaning into your natural talents and gifts, leaning into what you feel is intuitively right, or what inspires you to do, or what you're inspired to do in your next steps. So that's one message here, Jupiter in the fifth. But I feel like you are being challenged by Saturn in the second. Wherever we have Jupiter is where we're trying to grow, where we're trying to evolve and become bigger and better and expand to new horizons. So for you, again, with this fifth house energy, it's allowing you to become kind of like more of yourself, like doing more of what interests you and becoming really masterful at it. But Saturn in the second, especially at the time of the full moon, which is on the 19th, I feel like the Saturn the second, because during that date it's going to oppose Venus in the eighth, it's going to bring up quite a bit around your sense of security, your survival instinct. And that opposition with Venus in the eighth is going to tie in a little bit of that kind of fear of crisis, or fear of things that have already happened. So what I'm seeing is that you are meant to be expanding into this amazing fifth house energy, where you're following your passions and adding the strategy and becoming masterful and taking up space. But with Saturn the second, there's this kind of like survival instinct that I think is kicking in. And because I pulled this Six of Cups in reverse, it's also something linked to the past that I think is really going to slow you down a little bit. So the Six of Cups in reverse, this has a lot to deal with somebody who is kind of not, who's trying to move on from their past, but they may struggle with it, especially with the Eight of Swords describing this card as well. There's a sense of anxiety coming from reliving the past, or not fully being able to let something go, or being reminded of something that has already happened, and letting that kind of get in the way of your self-actualization, or your desire for improvement, or your investment into a passion of yours. It's like, let's say, for example, you've always wanted to be a musician, and then you have this aspect taking place, and it's like you have a lot of strategy and you have a lot to bring to the table. You have a lot of skill and you want to do that, and you start putting effort into it. But then you have all of these insecurities and fears come up where you feel like, I'm not good enough, I'm not valuing myself enough, or this thing that I was taught as a child around what's practical, what's safe, what's the right thing to do in terms of, you know, being cautious and being, again, practical. It's like those thoughts could come up and get in the way of your natural ability to just shine. It becomes an inhibition because of the things that you've been taught, or the things that you've been through in the past, and how they have maybe affected your confidence, or they've affected your ability to do something. Let's say this is also, let's use another example. Let's say you want to be a better and more connected parent to your child. Maybe you have a lot of things that you're interested in doing with them, you want to experience with them, and you have been doing research and you know exactly how you want to go about it and you're excited about it. But then you are like, well, but then financially, you know, I don't really have money for this, and my family didn't spend money on like that with me growing up, and maybe that's wasteful, or not teaching my kids the right thing. And it's like you're bringing up stuff from the past, worries and fears and things that have influenced you, and letting that inhibit you from moving towards something that you just really enjoy, that you're just really gifted at. And it's almost like through that lens of, oh, I'm going to be practical, or, oh, I'm going to listen to how things have always been done, or whatever it is, or this fear is coming up for a reason. Like, those thoughts may be an excuse. And so I really encourage you at this time to look and see if you are stalling, if you are procrastinating, if you are not giving something your all, and if there is some reason as to why you're doing that. And ask yourself, like, yeah, ask yourself if there's something from the past related to your procrastination or your inability to move forward that is trying to tell you that you have unresolved emotions or fears around this thing, or things from the past that could just be brought back up as a result of trying something new. So there's a lot of different examples for this, but it's like, let's say also you want to move somewhere new. King of Wands, Seven of Swords. I'm extremely passionate about going to this place. I've always wanted to live here. I'm really like all on board with this, and I'm starting to research and really think strategically about an investment like this. Great. Fifth house, true heart desire. I'm following it. Jupiter in the fifth. But then Saturn in the second, again, money, practicalities, fears, feeling unworthy, trying to stay super safe, focusing on things that have already happened or have been kind of taught to you or handed down from you from the past, and letting all those things kind of compound into a worry or a fear or a block that slows you down. So you make a step forward and then a step back, step forward, step back. That's typical Jupiter-Saturn square. We have to reevaluate our beliefs about something. And in this case, maybe it's time to evaluate your beliefs around money or practicality or self-worth or whatever was taught to you as a child. And your advice card is to flow. So there's something here around being able to trust the process, trust that things will work out, and notice the feeling or the energy or the pace to things. So you know what a flow state feels like. The energy feels neutral or positive. The flow feels like you are moving without having a concept of time. You get in the zone. You become engulfed. Is that the right word? Engulfed? In what you're doing. So you kind of lose track of all of these maybe worries or doubts or opinions or fears or things from the past coming back up. You're like, oh, you're not even thinking about that. You have blinders on and you're focused. And it's also, there's this universal tempo as well, where if things start to slow down, then you kind of trust that maybe is a time to slow down. Or if things take a detour on the river and they take you left instead of right, when you had a lot of intention about going right, you trust that maybe there is a reason you're going left, and maybe you're avoiding something that would have been bad on the right, and it's helping you get to your destination faster. And so there's a sense, again, of flow where you're really paying attention to the signs, the synchronicities, how you're feeling about something, whether you are unintentionally blocking yourself from something, or if it's truly the universe taking you on detours and slowing things down, which is normal for Jupiter square Saturn. Recognizing the difference, and they're subtle. They're often things that remain unconscious. So a lot of this, I think, is going to take a great deal of self-awareness and slowing down to see, am I living in the past? Am I living in my fear? Am I preventing myself from moving forward? Do I have these kinds of safety precautions that are overly protective of myself and not allowing me to move towards my heart's desire? So these are kind of things I think you're meant to be looking towards, and getting familiar with what it feels like to be in flow. And being in flow doesn't always mean that things are going to be at the same pace or that there won't be detours. Again, there's this whole journey. So I think being in flow just means that you're not resisting and you're feeling good about what you're doing in the moment, even when things are not externally always matching what you would want them to be in terms of an outcome, but you're trusting that what you're putting into it feels right, and that the universe will find a way to make that work eventually. But still, there's this element of strategy with Jupiter in the fifth. In Gemini, it's like there's still an element here of really doing your research and due diligence. So that's super important as well. Anyway, I think I'm rambling now, but I hope that makes sense. It's a duality, it's a balance of all of these things. And so your advice is to find flow, but notice that there's a 4-4 on here. There still needs to be a sense of safety and security. So you don't want to ignore Saturn the second, which is trying to keep you safe. You don't want to bulldoze that in the name of flow, but you don't want to become so restricted by your life vest that you're not moving at all and it's like choking you, right? So anyway, hope that makes sense. If it does, if it resonates, I love to hear from you in the comments down below. Please also share this with your friends if you find that they will enjoy it as an Aquarius. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, you have Pisces rising and sun. We're going to dive into what Jupiter square Saturn means for you. Before I do, I want you to make sure that you watch the overview so you understand the context of when this is happening, when the cycle started, and how it will continue. So definitely watch the overview. If you haven't already, pause the video and go back to that now. But for you guys, Jupiter is in your 4th house and squaring Saturn in your 1st. This is definitely a little bit more pivotal for you because Saturn's in your 1st house of your sense of self. And this is a really defining time to have a critical aspect like this occurring. And so I think that you guys are in an era of really trying to kind of build yourself up financially or security wise. That's definitely a strong theme that was coming up, even though usually when we look at finances, we're thinking a little bit more 2nd house. But the 2 cards that came up for me were 5 of Pentacles upright and 10 of Pentacles reversed. So there's a couple of different things that this can mean. This is related to Jupiter in your 4th house. So one of the things that I think can happen when Jupiter moves to a house is it can challenge us to grow that area of our life. And that can oftentimes mean that we experience some level of discomfort or a desire for more, desire for greatness, or to reach out for more opportunities, to act on things, to get outside of our comfort zone. And ultimately, it's possible that there could have been just like a little bit of rigidity. And I see that with this bone card being your advice. But there could have just been some rigidity in your life. And I think, again, this has to deal with Saturn in the 1st. Like being a little stuck in our ways, in the things that we have become defined by. It could be a belief. It could be a habit. It could be a relationship or a place that you live, a job that you've been in. But there's a little bit of this kind of energy of maybe, I was going to say stagnancy, so maybe a little stagnancy, but there's something here where it's like you could be really leveling up right now. You can really get outside of that, again, comfort zone with Jupiter in the 4th, or challenge yourself to feel like you can expand what you feel safe in. That's what I feel like a big part of this square is about for you. But I think that there is some level of, again, kind of like calcified energy of, I am this way. I've always done it this way. My family has always done it this way. And I am coming from this perspective that this is the way that things are. That's my foundation. That's my starting point for who I am. And to change that is like complete upheaval of who you are at the root of who you are. And that's what I think Jupiter in the 4th wants you to do. It wants you to uproot some things that maybe in your family have been passed down, or in your history that you've always done, or in your emotional response to things, you've always reacted that way. There's a sense of like repetition, pattern, cycling, history of things. And that is something that I think you are meant to realize at this point in time, that you want to outgrow. With the 5 of Pentacles, this is an energy of lack. And I feel like with this, I'm getting this kind of energy of like, I'm planting seeds in a soil that's depleted. This soil has been used again and again and again for the same crops, and it is depleting the soil, the nutrients of the soil. It's not regenerative farming where we're mixing things up and maybe using certain areas at different times or different plants and allowing things to compost and die off and become new and create life. No, there's a sense of, I'm going to strip the land of its nutrients by just staying rigid in my approach, rigid in the way I think about things or the way I do things. And like, maybe rigid isn't the right word, but repetitive, I think, is the right word, where it's always been done that way, so I'm going to do it that way. So I feel like there's something there where you guys are, again, needing to come out of that. And I think Jupiter in the fourth represents realizing that the soil is depleted where you are. And the Ten of Pentacles in reverse is realizing that the inheritance of the way of doing things, the history of the way of doing things from either your life or maybe even all the way back to your ancestral line isn't serving you. It's run dry. It's become, again, arid or like lifeless. And so what I feel like you're realizing is that you want more. You want to kind of create life, and that means in order to, again, create that life, when you're doing regenerative farming, not that I know a lot about this topic, so feel free to inform me down below. But again, things have to die off, and there's a sense of the compost and the breaking down of the things that aren't working or the things that are old, that making the nutrients that is needed for the next phase of life. And so there has to be some willingness to shed layers of who you are and these definitions and these hard boxes and these expectations or these histories, and being willing to shake all of that up in order to create something dynamic and new for yourself. And again, get out of this kind of bone energy, because this is your advice card. This is saying that there are things that you've been, again, kind of stuck in your ways about, and you might not even fully know. It says, you are dependable with a strong work ethic and discipline and regimented approach to all aspects of life. Although at times you can give the impression of being inflexible and uncompromising, what does not bend runs the risk of breaking. You may benefit from being a little softer and more easygoing, relinquish control. So these are not really qualities of Pisces. Pisces are not people that try to be in control. They're generally people who are good with going with the flow, but everyone is a human, and with Saturn moving through your sign, we're going to show the human quality of being defined by something or doing something habitually or being stuck in a pattern just on autopilot with something in our life. Everybody has that, no matter how much you go with the flow. And so there's something that, again, what does not bend runs the risk of breaking. So there's something in your life that I think, and I think this is you really, but there's something in your life that needs to bend and adapt. And that you could feel the tension of that, the push between the desire to solidify and stay where you are, and the desire to kind of morph and grow out of your container and out of this kind of small pot that you've been put in. Lots of plant metaphors. I don't know where that's coming from. The Saturn energy that I have for you guys, or the cards that I pulled, are Devil reverse, Five of Wands reverse. So I really feel like this is kind of getting out of your own way in a lot of senses, and being willing also to go against the music, go against the grain of what you've always done or what other people have always done in your family, or what people around you have been doing, or the people that you live with. There's this sphere of influence where we see things done a certain way and we kind of go with it, and we get caught up in that. And Pisces can definitely be influenced. So there's something here where it's like, I am willing to challenge myself. I'm willing to challenge others. I'm willing to challenge certain situations in my life, whatever it is that it has been stagnating me or that has been defining me in a way that feels like it's becoming brittle and is meant to be bent or be softer and adapted. I'm going to challenge those things. I'm going to get unstuck and not feel limited or trapped by them or stuck in a cycle with them. So that's really the energy that I'm seeing here. I kind of want to pull one more card for you guys. Any more advice for my Pisces? Or okay, rebirth. Yes, there's this cycle of rebirth where, again, the old things have to break down in order for it to give fuel to the new elements of your life. But if you are super attached to this life and you don't want to let it go and you only see this way and you fear of what could be on the other side and you fear of the loss of something, then you're again holding on to control in a way that's not going to allow this new thing to come in. And it may come in, I mean, around this time on August 19th, there is a full moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus. So that can bring change thrust upon you unwillingly. So if you're not willing to be reborn, life will put you through the situations that forces your hand at some point in life. And if it waits and it builds and it builds, it's just going to be more intense circumstances that forces your hand. So be willing to redefine who you are. That is what this rebirth card says. And that's what Saturn moving through the first is. It's about really looking at the things that you thought were solid in your personality, in your habits, in your body, your appearance, your relationships, your family, the place that you live, the way that you make money, looking at everything, and assessing what needs to be reborn within the self to solidify yourself anew, to come into a new era. And I really feel like that's going to give you so many blessings and you're really going to enjoy it. But sometimes the process is uncomfortable. So hang tight. I hope this resonates. If it does, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below what it relates to in your life. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye.